Greetings, my dear viewer. I really like stories in which cheaters get exactly what they've done to other people. I call it the boomerang of karma. So my dear friend, make yourself comfortable and listen to this story. And don't forget to put your royal like and subscribe to the channel. Let's go. For several years now, I have been holding the position of chief engineer at a construction company engaged in design and construction, and I often have to travel on business trips. This week was no exception. The next morning, I had a 7:30 flight scheduled from Hartsfield, Jackson, so I knew I would have to wake up at 4 in the morning to avoid traffic jams in Atlanta. I decided to take the day off from work early on Monday to get home and get ready for the road. As a result, my work in Baton Rouge stalled, and I had to spend all Tuesday and half of Wednesday solving the problems that arose. Our main project manager, Etherly, will hopefully learn from this experience, but I will closely monitor her work in the future. On Wednesday afternoon, I was racing down the highway to chat with colleagues in New Orleans. Mary Jo Pilecki, the construction manager I trained in Atlanta, was going on maternity leave soon. As her companion, I carefully monitored her project to make sure everything would be documented for her future successor. This is not surprising, but Mary Jo had everything under strict control anyway. After dinner with Mary Jo and her husband Ozzy on Wednesday evening, we had a planning meeting for Thursday morning. After boarding a flight from Louis Armstrong Airport, I made my way through the Atlanta traffic jams and arrived at my office by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I told my boss, Mr. Strickland, about the Baton Rouge project and advised him to ensure more careful monitoring, as well as familiarized him with Mary Jo's achievements in New Orleans. He approved my recommendations and ordered that I take time off immediately after I submit the cost report. I quickly filled out the report and was about to send Reagan a message that I would be home early when Ethan Gardner, my longtime best friend since 3rd grade and a work colleague for 6 years, suddenly appeared in my office and closed the door. "Hi, Trent. How was your business trip?" he asked. "It has been a long but fruitful one. I think Etherly will be able to run Baton Rouge better now, but I'm very tired. Mr. Strickland actually told me to take the day off, so I'm already going home," I replied. When Ethan's face darkened, I couldn't help but laugh. "It's not like that. I'm not fired. Mr. Strickland just wanted me to rest, thus compensating for all the extra hours I devoted to working in Baton Rouge. Now I'm going to buy flowers and wine so I can be in a good mood when Reagan gets home. Anything related to work can be a little patient." Ethan chimed in, "Trent, it's not work-related. This is about Reagan." I asked, and my heart sank with fear. Why wasn't I informed that something was wrong? Ethan hesitated and then said, "Trent, she was unfaithful to you while you were gone." Anger surged through me and I stared at Ethan. Reagan talked about her wild past in college, but she gave me her word that everything was in the past and even turned to a therapist to get through this transition period. I trusted her. "Ethan, don't joke like that. Please, if you're joking like that, you better go away and rethink our friendship," I said. Ethan looked offended. "I'm not kidding, Trent. Jake Campbell found out from Clay that Reagan betrayed you. Clay's friend met with her and found out that she wasn't exclusive, so he didn't hide it." When Ethan's words confirmed my worst fears about Reagan, my world seemed to collapse. I knew that this accusation was untrue, and I was furious at Ethan for believing such a ridiculous rumor. I knew my wife like no one else, and my anger was directed at those who spread this nonsense and at the fool who started it. I was furious with Ethan for contributing to the spread of this ridiculous rumor. "Ethan, it's all a lie. If you dare to talk about it again, I won't hesitate to set your mind straight. Leave now, before I change my mind, and do it no matter what," I said angrily. Ethan is a tall, thin, eccentric guy. He realized that I took my warning seriously. With a heavy heart, he avoided looking into my eyes and eventually met my gaze full of suffering. "Trent, I hate to say this, but I have to be honest with you. We've been best friends for so long, and you're too dear to me to ignore it. I know you have a short temper, and in the past I've always been the one to calm you down and keep you out of trouble. That's why I have to tell you about it. My cousin hired a detective when he felt his wife was cheating, and I have his contact. If he finds out that Reagan behaved in some way wrong, then that's the way it is. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves. Ethan was right. We've been inseparable since his family moved next door when we were kids. He was a smart and calm guy who always kept us out of trouble, and I was a sports brawler who always managed to get out of unpleasant situations. Despite the fact that we studied at different colleges, I was able to recommend him for a job at my company, and we have been working together for 6 years now. Despite the fact that at first, I doubted the words Ethan, I still realized that he really believes in this and is only trying to protect me. Taking a deep breath, I finally asked, "Your brother's wife, was she?" Ethan grimaced and confirmed, "Yes, she was investigated by Miss Hightower. After the divorce, he still meets with his ex-wife twice a week for the sake of their children. His love for children is unshakable, and he is ready to do everything to ensure their safety and well-being. If it wasn't for them, he might have gotten out of control and faced serious consequences." "I'm sorry, friend," Ethan said, picked up the phone and left my office, closing the door behind him. Left alone, I thought about his words and accusations. My heart was torn with pity for Ethan's brother, and especially for his children. Before that, Reagan and I were also thinking about joining the family, dreaming of a son and daughter. Taking a deep breath, I tried to pull myself together to pack my things and go home. I was driving, trying to get Ethan's words out of my head, but they wouldn't let me rest when I pulled onto the highway. I didn't want to believe what he said, not at all. It seemed absurd, but the thought did not leave. Heading north on the highway, I considered the idea of telling Reagan, but eventually gave it up. I don't want to upset her with baseless accusations, especially if they come from Ethan. After stopping at the supermarket, I went into the kitchen, and Reagan hugged me tightly. "You came back earlier than I expected," she said with a smile as our lips joined, making up for the time we had missed since Tuesday morning. She explained, "I've been staying up late the last 2 nights to get off early today and surprise you." Her words filled me with warmth as she whispered, "I've missed you so much, Trent." I couldn't help but smile at how beautiful and funny she was, putting aside the doubts that Ethan's friend had planted. I was sure Reagan loved me unshakably, and the idea that she had cheated on me was absurd. While she fell asleep clinging to my arms, I tried to focus on reading, but my thoughts kept returning to Ethan's words. I knew the accusations were groundless, and I needed to convince Ethan of that in order to preserve our friendship. On Friday, as I was getting ready for work, I decided to contact the private investigator Ethan had recommended. My intention was not to discover any evidence of Reagan's infidelity, but to prove her innocence. I called Donna Hightower's office and made an appointment for Monday afternoon. I arrived at the office early, entering around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Before I tied the knot with Reagan, I held a substantial investment account solely in my name, which gave me the opportunity to hire a detective without her notice. At exactly 2 o'clock, I was escorted to the meeting room, where I was greeted by a tall, elegant woman in black trousers, a white blouse, and a bright red scarf. "Hello, Mr. Rowe," she said, her firm handshake and gaze attesting to her sharpness and experience. "I'm Donna Hightower. What can I do for you?" I returned her greeting, expressing gratitude that she had met me in such a short time. "My question is simple," I began. "I often go on business trips and I've heard rumors about my wife's infidelity. I need you to prove that this is a lie." When she started asking questions, I shared all the information I had about the prosecution and Reagan. Her questions got me thinking, and she diligently took notes, especially regarding Reagan's past romantic relationships both before and during our relationship. I felt confused when she finally put down her pen and expressed gratitude for the information. She then moved on to the client information sheet, noting that I had earned my bachelor's and master's degrees in engineering from the Georgia Institute of Technology. She further asked how familiar I was with the philosophy of the legal system, in particular the burden of proof. This unexpected turn of events confused me. She nodded understandingly. During my university studies, I took an introductory philosophy course and participated in several court cases at my firm. But I don't understand the specifics very well. She paused before continuing. You're asking me to prove that your wife didn't have an affair. Proving a negative fact may not be easy. For example, you can prove that a wine glass was not broken by showing that it is still intact. But it's much more difficult to prove that someone didn't do something. It is possible to prove that I did not rob a bank yesterday if there is an alibi. But it is extremely difficult to confirm that I did not commit anything last week, last year, or even 10 years ago if there are no consistent records. I realized that she was right, and I said, in this case, you are suggesting that you observe my wife for a certain time to find out if she is having an affair at that time. But you can't say that she didn't have an affair before you started following her. It is ineffective to prove a negative result in this situation. She replied, perhaps, but if we keep an eye on her and find no evidence of treason, we can draw conclusions about her actions. We can uncover past behavior if it exists, but we'll never be able to say for sure that she didn't have an affair. If this approach suits you, Mr. Rowe, we are ready to take up your case. If not, good luck finding someone who can fulfill your request. Having understood her point of view, I decided to resort to the help of the Hightower Private Investigation Service. I spent a few extra hours with one of her detectives providing information, filling out a questionnaire, and strategizing for the specific scenarios she outlined. I've been busy at the Atlanta office all week. On Saturday evening, when Reagan went to bed, an automatic switch suddenly went off in the basement. It was only on Sunday afternoon, after returning from church and having lunch with the new parishioners, that I noticed that the house was unusually hot. Reagan complained about the temperature, which prompted me to check the switch. Despite the fact that I switched several switches and tried to reset the voltage, the problem persisted. I'll call the air conditioning service, I told Reagan. She insisted that I do it, stressing that it was too hot in the house that night to sleep. After a disappointing call to the air conditioning service, where I was transferred to an answering machine, I suddenly remembered the number that Donna Hightower had given me and decided to try how it was done. I introduced myself and quickly arranged with someone to arrive the next day at 10 in the morning. Reagan overheard our conversation and joked about sleeping in the guest room, comparing it to staying in a hotel. Her lighthearted comment lifted my spirits, especially after the recent accusation that weighed heavily on me. I couldn't believe Reagan would do something so terrible, considering how much she loves me. The next morning, Reagan offered to wash the bed linen in the guest room before the employees' visit. While working at home, I met with a subcontractor from the Hightower Detective Service who came to fix our air conditioner. He arrived at 10 o'clock and started working as soon as I turned on the light switch. An hour later, he completed the task. The motion-activated cameras installed by him turn on for 5 minutes after motion is detected. They are equipped with wide-angle lenses that imperceptibly capture everything that comes into view. Although they are quite sufficient for legal purposes, they cannot meet the standards of film production. He installed 3 cameras in the bedroom, 1 in each room, and 1 on the bathroom door to ensure thorough coverage. After paying him for the installation and the 2-week rent, I thanked him and went to work. When I returned home, I immediately felt that the house had become cool. "Honey, I need to include a job at a hotel in Orlando in my trip this week," I explained. "I was supposed to be in Tampa on Tuesday evening, but now I have to visit Orlando as well. Loretta has arranged for a late Friday flight. I can't change anything. I'm really sorry." "I'm going to miss you," Reagan said with a note of sadness in her voice. "But let's try to catch up." She smiled, took my hand, and led me to the couch in the family room. "I love you, Trent," she whispered. "I feel the same way about you, Reagan," I replied sincerely, and a smile spread across my face. Despite Ethan's baseless accusations, Deep down, I was sure that our marriage was strong and unshakable. The meetings in Tampa were productive, and the subsequent ones in Orlando were easy. Although I usually monitor these tasks remotely, being on site helped our management team stay on track and focus. I took the opportunity to evaluate the quality of the construction and resolve all issues with the assistant project manager. He was young, but he showed great potential, and I saw that in the near future, he would be ready for more responsibility. I had the opportunity to leave on Thursday afternoon, but I turned down the idea. Reagan thought I was coming on Friday night, and I decided to make sure that Miss Hightower would have enough time to look after Reagan. Despite my confidence in Reagan's loyalty, I stayed. I spent the morning working in my room, and in the evening I went to the popular weapons range in Orlando. I rented some pistols for myself and let the tourists try out the machine guns. The next day, I devoted time to working on our construction site until it was time to go to the airport. Struggling through traffic jams, I finally got to our house. As soon as I entered the house, Reagan rushed into my arms, instantly relieving the tension. She brought me a beer, and we cuddled up on the couch, and then went upstairs. The next day, while Reagan was working out at the gym, I cleaned up the yard. After drinking a glass and watching the Braves game, I decided to look into my personal email and check if there was any news from the detective. To my disappointment, there was nothing there. On Sunday, when Reagan was away on business, I checked my email again, still hoping for some news. When I nervously opened the message, silently begging for it to be a simple update, I was overcome with a sense of relief. A message from Larson Toolworks informed me that my order would be ready on Monday at 11 in the morning, and that I needed to contact their office to arrange delivery. After deleting the message, I tried to hide my concern from Reagan when she returned home. I avoided her kisses, muttered that I wasn't feeling well, and told her to lie down while I cooked dinner. She hugged me, noticing my distress, and I found comfort in her arms, even though I was afraid that she would get sick. Instead of her usual scent, there was an unfamiliar scent of flowers in the air. After skipping dinner on Sunday evening, I woke up early in the morning feeling anxious. The other smell of her hair made me suspicious. I tried to put it down to the fact that she tried a new perfume. Having confirmed our meeting for Monday morning, I drove up to Miss Hightower's office shortly before 11 in the morning. She greeted me with a wave of her hand and invited me to sit down. "Mr. Rowe, we have completed our investigation earlier than expected, but I am sorry to break the unpleasant news to you." With a grim expression on her face, she pushed a folder across the table to me. My world collapsed when I quickly flipped through the photos. Here she is, with a man in our bedroom. The other photo had the same scene, but the guy in this photo didn't look like the one in the first one. "I'm sorry, but the report says everything," she said calmly. "We captured her with 3 different men in 4 meetings from Saturday to yesterday. We captured one of the meetings in another house. She went shopping yesterday," I stuttered. Her expression turned serious, and she nodded in confirmation. "Mr. Rowe, your wife went shopping on Saturday afternoon after meeting her second lover. The next day, Sunday, she only went to the grocery store. Perhaps her location can be confirmed by checking receipts or credit card statements if she did not use cash." "But she went to the gym on Saturday," I exclaimed, still not believing it. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Rowe," she said. "Judging by the photo of her leaving the hotel with lover number 2, it looks like she wasn't at a legal gym." Anger began to take over my disbelief, and I demanded, "How can this be?" In 1 week, 3 different men appeared in her life, and I was there to support her before and after each meeting, I said. Miss Hightower raised her hand, explaining that she was not a psychiatrist but rather an experienced detective. She suggested that my wife might be suffering from nymphomania because it seemed to me that she was doing everything possible to hide her adventures from me. Remembering the scent of flowers in her hair, I couldn't help but wonder if she had taken a shower after meeting him yesterday. Miss Hightower remarked that perhaps she had just washed or sprayed her hair with something, which cast doubt on my assumptions. She carefully monitors her appearance and even manages to change the bed linen between different partners. There have been cases when a spouse was detained because of the remaining stain or smell, the detective added. Then I remembered that not so long ago she put clean linen in the guest room. It turned out that during 2 of the 3 nights when I was not at home, she received someone in our bedroom. They were not lovers, but rather adulterers. At least one of them fits that description, perhaps the other who seems to be her regular partner. The first remains unknown, and the third is not married. We found out that he is an ordinary man, Noah Wooliver, 32 years old, who turned out to be your wife's boss at her workplace, Miss Hightower said. Disappointed, I sighed, flipped through the photos again, came across the one where he was depicted, and felt my fists clench. I shook my head, remembering that Mrs. Allenby had been promoted in late spring, and Mr. Wooliver had become his wife's boss. Reagan didn't mention his name at all and claimed he wasn't sociable, but one day she pointed him out to me when I picked her up from work, I said. Miss Hightower shook her head in disbelief, suggesting that he had not kept in touch with the spouses of his mistresses. Mr. Wooliver had no criminal record or outstanding warrants, but he has several unpaid parking tickets. Your wife met him at a bar on Wednesday evening. They went to your house. His identity was established from traffic police records and confirmed through an internet search, Miss Hightower said. I sighed heavily, trying to contain my anger at the situation. Miss Hightower reassured me by saying that her investigation was not over yet. She mentioned that Reagan met with Noah at the hotel on Saturday and yesterday at his house, which, according to tax documents, belongs to Mrs. Wooliver's. The timing of their meetings was dangerous, and if one of them had arrived or left a few minutes earlier, they would have made a mistake. Reagan's deception is coming to an end, I said through gritted teeth. Reflecting on my past behavior, I admitted that I ran after any woman who showed interest, but it didn't lead to anything until I met Reagan. She always behaved the same way in college, but then she expressed a desire to stop. She confessed her love to me once, but now... Miss Hightower patted my hand reassuringly. As I stared at the photo of Noah Wooliver, anger boiled up in me. Miss Hightower squeezed my hand tightly. Mr. Rowe, I understand what you're going through. Please don't let your pain control you, which you will regret later. Revenge can lead to serious consequences. Imprisonment, job loss, and the destruction of everything you've worked for. It's her fault, not yours. She insisted that I nod in agreement and warned me to be careful and not let her actions ruin my life. She urged me to restrain my emotions and not go too far. While I was thinking about her words, I was overcome by a sense of betrayal, and my dreams of a family were shattered, replaced by a burning desire for revenge. I vowed never to physically hurt her, but I was determined to make her pay for it emotionally. I assured her that I would be careful, but she would fully feel all the pain she had caused me. Miss Hightower sighed heavily and made one last request, begging me to be careful and not cross a dangerous line. On Miss Hightower's advice, I decided to contact George Godwin, the divorce lawyer. I spent several hours in Piedmont Park thinking about my next steps before I met Mr. Godwin, who turned out to be Miss Hightower's uncle. Despite his bulky and cheerful appearance, he was well versed in family law and the Georgia legal system. We quickly established friendly contact and delved into the details of my divorce. When I showed him the incriminating photos, he whistled in surprise. "What do we need?" I asked, handing him a flash drive with all the records that Miss Hightower had collected. He studied her and appreciated his niece's thoroughness. "This girl knows her job very well, Trent. Everything looks ready. I'll put it all together and let you know when we're ready to file the paperwork." "Can you prepare for next Monday?" I asked. He replied, "Yes, but it will cost you more." I agreed and said, "I'll be waiting." Then I shared my thoughts and made another request to him. His face remained expressionless, but he warned me, "Be careful, Trent. I understand that you are angry, but you need to be extremely careful in court cases. Appearance and attitude matter in court." Forced to smile, I reminded myself that there is no big river in the center of Atlanta. I came home late on Monday saying I wasn't feeling well. Then I avoided talking to Reagan. After finishing my evening chores, I got lost in my thoughts. I left Tuesday morning without waking her up to catch a flight to Charlotte. Finally, on Thursday evening, I made a terrible call. "Ethan, this is Trent. I want to apologize. You were absolutely right, and I was wrong. She betrayed me." Ethan, as befits a friend, quickly forgave me and offered his help. I came up with an excuse to stay at home on Friday night, citing fatigue. The next morning, I went to my parents to help my father with his business. I wanted to share the news with him, but I knew I had to wait. I called Reagan on Saturday night and said I wouldn't be back until Sunday afternoon. She was worried, and she didn't seem to be alone. I ended the call with a forced "I love you." On Sunday afternoon, when Reagan was probably meeting with someone else, Mr. Godwin texted me. I called him back and he informed me that everything was ready for work. At my request, the bailiff was supposed to hand over the papers at 11 o'clock on Monday morning. I took time off from work, writing Reagan a note saying that I had important things to do. I went to the office to finalize my plans. Reagan called me twice, worried about the current case. I assured her that I would be home very late due to delayed business, but promised to return on Monday as early as possible to spend the evening with her. Her mood improved, and she confessed her love to me. Despite my lies, I couldn't help but think about her deception and how cruel reincarnation can be. That night she got angry when I went to bed early. As soon as she left for work the next morning, I started the process of marking all my things with bright paint tape. Everything that will be considered common property will either be included in the agreement or will be donated. Around 8 in the morning, Ethan appeared in the company of a team of movers. I helped them get started and then handed over the reins to Ethan so I'd have time to pack the essentials. Every item loaded into the truck was sent to the warehouse. Reagan didn't pay attention to the fact that the previous Saturday, I had quietly moved my weapon to my parents' house. When the moving process came to an end and I was about to leave, Amy, Reagan's neighbor and close friend, noticed the truck and asked about our sudden move. I got ahead of her just in time before she saw anything. "Hush," I said with a grin. "I'm giving Reagan a surprise in the form of new furniture in honor of our upcoming anniversary. Next week it will be 5 years since the wedding. Please don't miss this moment." She agreed, smiled, and left. By noon, the news would most likely spread, so I breathed a sigh of relief. It was almost 11 o'clock. I tipped the movers well, thanked Ethan, and drove to the bank. I withdrew half of the money from our accounts in the form of a cash receipt, which I then deposited into a new account at the credit union. Then I drove to the parking lot of an office building in Sandy Springs and plugged in my laptop. I made a request for a new credit card in my name and closed the current card with a 0 balance. The process took longer than expected, and I began to sweat slowly under the pressure of running out of time. Finally, I did everything and went into our family mailbox, anxiously waiting for the scheduled SMS. Soon I received a message from the bailiff that Reagan had gone to the scene of the accident. Soon another message came saying that she was in the lobby and visibly nervous. I quickly uploaded the prepared letter to our family mailbox, deciding not to send a more personalized message from Reagan's work address on the advice of Miss Hightower and her uncle. A letter sent to friends and family described in detail my recent decision to divorce, and also included 3 photos of Reagan and her lovers. Photos were scaled down and blurred to hide obvious details, but still clearly indicated an affair. The message was not intended for Reagan or Noah. After I clicked the send button, I made sure that the email was sent and logged out. My phone rang instantly, and it was Reagan. "Trent, what's going on? A divorce? How is that? I thought we were happy. Are you seeing someone?" I couldn't help but chuckle at her furious tone. "Do you think we're happy? I thought so too until I found out about your actions. Take a look at the back of the envelope." I heard her going crazy and screaming, making promises of love, just like on our wedding day 5 years ago. "Damn it! She screamed, "Trent, it's not what you think at all. I want to explain everything." But I've already made my decision. No, Reagan, this is the end. The information about my lawyer is in the package. Call him if you need anything. I ended the conversation while she continued to explain. She tried to call again, but I ignored her and sent her to voicemail. Her messages were full of denials and lies, which I deleted without listening. I blocked her number and immediately dialed my father-in-law's number. Bob and Chessie weren't just family, they were friends, so I felt the need to tell him everything in person. "Hi, Bob. This is Trent. I don't want to bother you at work, but it's important, and you need to hear it from me." I heard him swallow hard on the other end of the line. "What happened, son?" he asked. "Bob, I'm sorry to say this, but because of Reagan's inability to be faithful to me, I'm divorcing her." "Trent, wait," he begged. "I know how my daughter behaved before, but everything has changed. You can't be offended by her." "Bob, your daughter has an exacerbation, and everything is very bad. Just 2 weeks ago when I was on a business trip, she completely lost control of herself. I have all the evidence, the place, date, time, photos, and videos. It breaks my heart to have to tell you this on the phone, but I had no choice. I don't believe her anymore. I filed for divorce this morning, and she already knows about it," I said. "I can't believe my ears. She gave her word that she would end it," Bob muttered. "Yes, Bob, but her promises turned out to be empty. If she had never betrayed me, I would have loved her forever. But now that love is gone. I still cherish you and Chessie, so I'm telling you about it personally." Bob was devastated by this news. We said goodbye with a heavy heart. I tried to call Chessie, but the call went to voicemail. I left a short message, knowing that Bob had probably already talked to her. I took a deep breath before proceeding with the part of my plan that I wasn't sure about. I have carefully weighed my options. On the one hand, such a course of events can potentially harm an innocent person. On the other hand, if you don't finish the job, you can hurt yourself even more. Gathering my courage, I put on sunglasses, a cap, and attached a fake courier ID to it. Ethan advised me to call between 11 and 11:30 in the morning under the guise of sunshine process serving. When I entered the building, I put a piece of gum in my mouth, trying to radiate confidence. Approaching the security desk, I confidently stated, "Hello, I'm TC Rowe from Sunshine Couriers and Process Serving. I have a special package for Mrs. Melissa Wooliver." The guard's expression turned frowning as he appreciated my presence. "Parcels of this kind are delivered to the reception center," the guard said. "In no case, the courts require that we be presented with documents with a photo and a personal signature. To avoid further complications, we recommend that you conduct the transaction calmly," I said. The guard stopped me and asked me what I needed. I explained that I needed to meet Mrs. Wooliver in the lobby, verify her identity, get her signature, and then leave without too much trouble. He nodded in agreement and told me to go upstairs with a visitor's pass. He held my ID card while I was getting my pass. I handed him my driver's license, and he reluctantly took it, giving me a pass in return. "Return the pass to get your license," I was instructed. I nodded in understanding and headed for the 3rd floor. When I reached the front desk, I engaged in a routine exchange with the receptionist, who then called Mrs. Wooliver. Throwing away the gum and putting the cap in my bag, I discovered my true identity. Melissa Wooliver, a girl in her 30s with tanned skin, dark brown hair, and captivating brown eyes, appeared with a worried expression on her face when she was pointed out to me. She came up to me hesitantly and asked, "Joan said you have something for me to sign?" "Hello, Mrs. Wooliver. I'm Trent Rowe. You don't need to describe anything, but I have to leave it to you as it concerns you directly. Mrs. Wooliver, I regret to inform you that your husband had an affair with my wife," I said softly, handing her their photo. "There are documents in the envelope that testify to everything," I added. Tears welled up in her eyes. "It's probably a fake," she cried. "I asked the detectives to help check my wife's behavior. After watching her, they confirmed that she was indeed having an affair. The evidence in the envelope is concrete and legally sound, and I intend to go to court." Melissa whispered through tears that Noah promised it was a one-time mistake that wouldn't happen again. But the truth is undeniable. This affair was prepared in advance and happened repeatedly. The documents in the envelope mentioned 3 separate meetings in just 5 days, I said. She clung to me tightly, shaking her head in disbelief. The betrayal was obvious, and now it was time to seek justice for the pain she had caused. She was much shorter than me. Tears were streaming down her face as she looked at me. "I'm leaving for lunch soon. If you want, I can send him my photo," she offered. "Mrs. Wooliver, you are a wonderful woman, but revenge is not the way out. You have to live with it. Do not do something that you will regret later or that the legal system will not support," I warned. Taking a step back, she nodded. "You're right. I've already forgiven him, but this is the end. We will go to court." I gave her the contact information of a private investigator and a helpful lawyer who helped with my case. She was shocked when she accepted the envelope from me, thanked me, and asked, "Can I call you for advice if I need it?" I assured her that my phone number was in the envelope. Following Donna Hightower's advice to visit the lab, I spent the next few days sweating over a project in South Georgia, consumed with anger at Reagan for putting me in danger of contracting something terrible. By the end of the week, I was relieved to learn from the laboratory that I did not have any sexually transmitted diseases. Meanwhile, Reagan continued to try to contact me, leaving messages on my work voicemail and on my mobile phone from different numbers. Despite the fact that I immediately deleted them as soon as I heard her voice, she continued to persist. When I returned to the office on Friday morning, I saw that new messages were waiting for me. Deleting them one by one, I finally decided to block her number. Having solved this problem, I decided to go to my parents for the weekend. They were also constantly receiving messages from Reagan, so I blocked her number from them as well. My mom was especially upset because she knew that Reagan and I wanted to have children. She begged me to change my mind about the divorce, claiming that Reagan's behavior could not have been so disgusting. I shook my head negatively and showed her a cropped photo with a clear date. Tears welled up in her eyes, but in the end she agreed, finally realizing the truth. She hugged her father tighter, and I said goodbye to them and headed to my new place of residence. The next day at work, Andy Smith burst into my office with disturbing news. Mary Jo's premature breakup occurred a few weeks before her planned maternity leave. We discussed possible actions, including prayers for Mary Jo and the babies, sending a thoughtful gift, and preparing Andy to replace her during her absence. Despite Andy's initial reluctance due to his current project, Mr. Strickland considered him the most suitable replacement. Andy looked excited because his project was still a month away from completion. After carefully reviewing our schedules, Andy and I presented Mr. Strickland with another plan. In order not to disrupt Andy's project, I offered to take over the job in New Orleans instead, and as necessary solve all the main issues on various projects, including Baton Rouge. After a while, we got the good news that Mary Jo and her twins were doing well. As I got to New Orleans, I felt more and more that I was moving away from Reagan and my past. I arrived at the hotel quite late, and I only had a couple of hours to sleep before getting to work. I spent the morning meeting with suppliers and studying the plans. I left early to check on Mary Jo at the clinic, where I noticed that she had already received the flowers I had sent. I gave her a commemorative gift and a certificate for the treatment of her children in the neonatal intensive care unit. Although I couldn't see the children face to face, I looked fondly at Mary Jo and Ozzy on the screen when they were with the twins. I rejoiced at their happiness, but the thought that I would never have children of my own weighed on my heart. Deciding to take my mind off it, I devoted all my time and energy to the project I was working on in the coming days. On Friday, I treated the employees of the construction bureau to drinks in the lively atmosphere of the French Quarter. On Monday, George Godwin called and asked how the divorce was going. He was stranded in Atlanta and was getting a lot of frantic calls from Reagan trying to reach me. "Are you really sure you don't want to talk to her?" he asked. I laughed sarcastically, thanked him, and went back to work. Later in the evening, I received a message from an unknown number. "Hi, Trent. My lawyer filed the paperwork today, and Noah has already been handed over. I'd like to talk to you. When will you be free? Thank you, Melissa." It was already late, so I immediately sent a reply message, and a minute later my phone rang. "Hi, Trent. Thanks for your time." "Of course, Melissa. How are you coping?" "It's very difficult, but I'm holding on," she replied uncertainly. "I just avoid deep conversations," I replied. After a moment of silence, she spoke. "Trent, I wanted to express my gratitude to you for revealing what Noah did and not letting me make a hasty decision. You could have easily taken advantage of my vulnerability, but you didn't. I appreciate it." "That would be bad for both you and me," I reassured her. I felt better, at least a little bit, after I distanced myself from her. "I'm glad to hear that you intend to go through with it," Melissa said. "Definitely. I know that I still have a difficult way to go, but this is an improvement over what it was before." "That's good to hear," she replied. I thought about offering her my support if she ever needed to speak out, but eventually decided against it. Noah was primarily her problem, and I was just a side effect. I had my own plans for him, so I didn't say anything. We mutually wished each other good luck and said goodbye. I have managed projects in New Orleans and Baton Rouge, as well as advised on other projects. It seemed to me that I was wading through a quagmire, surrounded by crocodiles up to my waist. A few weeks later, George called with the news. "Trent, Reagan's lawyer, requires a consultation, and you will have to meet her in person in Atlanta to have several sessions," he informed me. "What should I do?" I asked, angered by their sneaky tactics despite George's warning. "We withheld evidence of her infidelity. Should we disclose it now?" "We should turn it over to her lawyer, but Judge Johnson can block the request." A week later, Reagan's request for a consultation was rejected. One problem has been left behind. While Reagan and her lawyer fought with the judge for months, I stayed away, hoping she hadn't decided to track me down. I asked George to edit my will and life insurance so that she wouldn't benefit if something happened to me. I decided to visit Mary Jo's family. Once I even spent an evening with the children, sitting with them. The twins screamed loudly when their parents left, and I silently prayed that if I had children, they would be more manageable. Melissa Wooliver called me several times in search of support and strength. I carefully observed the boundaries to avoid any appearance of a romantic or inappropriate relationship. As Melissa's situation improved, her communication with me decreased. When Mary Jo's maternity leave came to an end, I sought the help of a real estate agent to help me find a new home. With pre-Reagan funds, I bought a house in Dunwoody just a few weeks before Michael Jackson returned. After almost 3 months spent in a rented apartment, I couldn't wait to get a cozy house and get my things out of storage. Mary Jo resumed her work, but since there were no new projects in New Orleans, she decided to stay in the role of mom with children for now, which was not surprising, given Ozzy's new position at Loyola. She expressed interest in working on future projects in New Orleans, to which I agreed. Returning to Atlanta meant saying goodbye to my unofficial godchildren, the children of Mary Jo and Ozzy, whom I often visited. I knew I would miss watching them grow up, a reminder that I myself was childless because of Reagan's actions. The divorce process with Reagan was also dragging on, but George Godwin assured me that Judge Johnson was as fed up as I was, and that the end was just around the corner. While I was settling into my new house, unpacking and getting to know my new neighbors, I met a kind, divorced woman named Noelle. I thanked her for bringing the pies, but politely declined the offer of dinner. Ethan, who was not familiar with the Georgia trial, asked when I could start dating again. I explained that I wanted to avoid any complications in dealing with Reagan when the judge finally approved the divorce. When Ethan started talking about Reagan, calling her an evil cow, I made it clear that I wasn't interested in discussing her. I admitted that I still owed him, but assured him that he would receive it in due course. Judge Johnson finally got tired of Reagan's constant delays and decided to schedule a final hearing for early April. I arrived at the courthouse a few minutes ahead of schedule and noticed Reagan walking towards me. "Trent, this wasn't supposed to be like this," she said with desperation in her voice. "I'm aware of that, Reagan, but you broke your oath," I replied calmly. "You've been away so much," she protested. "You knew what you were doing when you married me," I replied. "I've always made up for lost time, with the only exception, the last business trip, when you cheated on me with your boss and others, even after I returned." The anger on her face intensified. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "But I had needs," she tried to explain. Several onlookers watched our heated conversation. "We discussed all this before the wedding. You promised you were done with your adventures. You failed. It's time to move on. If you can't, find yourself another therapist," I said firmly. Reagan flinched at my words, and more people looked at her. I walked away when I noticed George approaching. "Trent, please," Reagan called to me, but I ignored her and entered the courtroom with George. Judge Johnson wanted us both to attend the final signing to avoid further delays. Reagan vented her anger, but the judge quickly intervened and made the final decision. The hammering marked the official end of our 5-year marriage. I thanked George and left the courtroom. Despite Reagan's pleas and screams, I decided to ignore her. The next day, George took the necessary steps to obtain a restraining order, which Judge Johnson quickly approved. According to this order, Reagan was supposed to be at a distance from me. Any violation could lead to a short time behind bars, but Reagan was wise enough not to interfere in my life. By the next weekend, I was ready to move on and started dating again, arranging a postponed date with Noelle. When I drove her home, she invited me in, and soon we were in her bedroom. After the second time, we both broke into a smile, and Noelle snuggled up to me. "Trent, if you want, we can do it again," she said, making it clear that she wasn't aiming for anything serious. I expressed my gratitude and went home. Noelle and I remained just friends, but we never crossed paths again. The following weekend, I set up a date with another woman, and then another during a business trip to Birmingham. After each date, I felt depressed. When I realized that I was still far from finding the perfect woman who would become my friend, lover, and life partner, with whom I could start a family, doubts arose in me. Over the next 2 months, the idea of finding lasting happiness seemed increasingly illusory. But I found solace in the frequent moments of short-term happiness that brought me joy. On the weekend dedicated to Independence Day, I decided to visit my parents. Watching my sister, her husband, and their 4 children, I couldn't help but feel homesick for that very family. My mother, who knows me better than I sometimes think, has noticed that if I don't change anything, I will never be able to give her and my father grandchildren. This gentle reminder made me rethink my approach to finding love and happiness. "Mom, I bought a house and I'm repairing it," I told her. "Trent, a house is not a house yet. A man and a good woman can make him like that. You need to find a good woman," she advised. "I understand, Mom. Everything will be. Just give me time," I assured her. She teased, "If we give you more time, your father and I will be dead by then, and will never meet our grandchildren." Her words struck a chord with me. One evening in late July, I received a text from Melissa Wooliver. "Hi Trent, this is Melissa Wooliver. Are you busy? I'd like to talk to you." I was shocked to receive a message from her after such a long break. After finishing cleaning the spray gun, I quickly replied to the message, asking her to call me when she was free. Shortly after that, my phone rang. "Hi Trent, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me," she said. "No problem, Melissa. How are you?" I asked. "We haven't talked in a long time, and I wasn't sure what you'd want after everything that happened." I chuckled. "Unless you had a hand in arranging the breakup between my ex-wife and your husband," Melissa interrupted me, clarifying that he was now an ex-husband. "At the same time, I want to make it clear that I don't blame you for the situation that has developed between them and for the chaos that they have caused." she said. Given that, I have no reason to avoid communicating with you, I replied. It's good to hear. I can assure you that I am not to blame for anything either. I've never doubted it. So what's new? Well, it took longer than I expected, but I finally got rid of it all. I even restored my maiden's name, Ortiz. I just wanted to express my gratitude for all your help. Thanks to you, I saw the true state of things, received valuable evidence and recommendations for free on what steps should be taken. Although I turned to another lawyer for advice, I am sincerely grateful for the help you have given me, Melissa said. You're welcome. Please don't dwell on this anymore, okay? I asked. I know it's hard, Trent. You were my rock when I was feeling depressed. I may not know you well, but I like what I see in you. That's why I'm taking a leap of faith and asking you for something I've never done before. Would you like to have dinner with me? Melissa suggested. We had a great dinner, but all I could think about was how kind and beautiful she was and what a fool her ex-husband must have been. Reagan was just as amazing, but there was a dark side to her that caught me off guard. In an instant, she went from 11 points to a negative number in my eyes. She teased me with an evil smile. You stare almost as much as I do. I smiled in agreement. It's easy to focus when you have someone who's so nice to look at. Her cheeks turned pink. She giggled and covered her mouth with her hand. Do you want to leave and come to my place? I said. Please, Trent, take me home or somewhere else. I need it and I can't wait, she whispered. After a while, when we were approaching her street, she took her phone out of her purse. Get in the garage, she ordered. The gate is open. We spent the whole night in bed, getting up only to drink water and go to the toilet. Luckily for me, it was Saturday and I didn't have a job the next day, so I didn't mind spending the whole night with her. After our morning intimacy, she fell asleep, and I finally had a free minute to go to the toilet. Sunlight filtered through the half-open curtain, illuminating her bedroom. Our clothes were scattered all over the room, and the sight made me smile. We spent the night on the double bed, and there were pillows everywhere on the floor. The TV was on a stand next to the armchair, so that it was convenient to watch it from the bed. But Melissa's chest of drawers, decorated with countless photographs, caught my attention. As I was looking at them, one photo caught my attention, making me stop and pick it up. Trent, what are you doing? Melissa's voice came from the bed, breaking my concentration. Melissa, who is this girl in these photos? I asked, unable to hide my curiosity. This is my daughter, Ansley. She's 3 years old, and she means everything to me, Melissa replied with a note of emotion in her voice. I was surprised to realize that she had never mentioned her before. I wanted to protect her from the story with Noah. She was the main point of disagreement in our divorce, which is why it dragged on for so long, Melissa explained with regret in her voice. I don't want you to see her until we figure out our relationship. And where is she now? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She spends the weekend with Noah. So what? Is something bothering you? She asked. I liked Melissa, and this news surprised me. Melissa, I'm not sure. You are very dear to me, but if there's one person I can't stand as much as my ex-wife, it's your ex-husband. I want to have children and be a part of your daughter's life if everything works out. But if I attend her celebrations, will Noah be there too? She sighed, understanding my concerns. He's a liar and a traitor, but he loves his daughter. It's true. Every time I look at him, the memories of his betrayal and the destruction of my marriage come back to me. I can't help but hold a grudge, and Ansley will undoubtedly pick up on that tension. Perhaps she will start to resent me, which will cause irreparable damage to our relationship. It pains me to admit it, but I'm afraid it will eventually destroy everything we have, I said. She sat down and whispered, Are you saying that there is no hope for us? Despite wanting to prove me wrong, I sadly replied, I don't believe there is one. With tears streaming down her face, she nodded in silent agreement. I foolishly thought that our bond was too perfect to break. Trent, please just go away, she said, her voice full of sadness. She tapped on the phone a few times and then added, "The garage door will open for you." Collapsing onto the bed with tears on her face, she covered herself with a sheet. I dressed quickly in the hallway, feeling disgusted with myself and resentful of her ex-husband. It was painful, but deep down I knew that leaving was the right choice. Later that day, I went to my parents. I told them a condensed version of what happened, but they saw my facade and knew that I was suffering more than I let myself. Mom tried to get more information out of me, but I knew it was useless. Despite her comforting hugs and reassurances that everything would be fine, I found it hard to believe. On Sunday, we met with my sister and her family to have lunch after church. While we were waiting for a table, she pulled me aside and insisted that I tell her all the details. Knowing that she had always supported me in the past, I shared with her, omitting some intimate details that she had most likely already guessed. "One date may not tell you much, but a few dates will help determine whether to continue the relationship," she said. My sister was right. Although one date may not answer all the questions, it gave me some insight into the potential problems that might arise from past experiences. Taking a chance on love is the only way to find out if it can work. I thought about the idea, and Ethan, who knew me well, supported my decision. After visiting a factory in the vicinity of LaGrange, I began to wonder if Ethan's success with women was a positive factor in our agreement. The following weekend, Ethan introduced us to several women, and we had a great time. I started thinking about dating again. During the divorce, Reagan insisted on keeping our house for herself. I convinced George to stand his ground, which resulted in Reagan having to sell the house because she couldn't afford foreclosure without sacrificing other things she wanted. It may seem like a small thing, but I thought it was the right thing to do. George and Reagan's lawyer had a good relationship, and George found out that Reagan was planning to buy an apartment. Later, I heard rumors that Reagan and Noah were planning to tie the knot. Concerned about the potential impact on my finances, I immediately turned to George for advice. Despite his belief that Reagan, a known fraudster, did not deserve alimony, the judge eventually awarded her a small monthly payment for 5 years or until she remarried. George assured me that if Reagan did get married, he would take the necessary steps to stop paying child support. "Some people never learn from their mistakes," I remarked, marveling at their ongoing relationship, which only strengthened my decision to end things with Melissa. George just grinned and said, "That's what keeps me in business." The news of their wedding made me rethink the decision I had given up during the divorce. I turned to Will Kleiner, a friend of Reagan's from the firm, whom I had known since college. We met at lunch, and I told the details of what happened. Will expressed sympathy, admitting that the situation was unfortunate. He mentioned that Wolliver had asked to be transferred to another department, and now everything became clear to me. They seemed to be trying to avoid conflicts with the HR department. I asked if there was an official policy for dealing with such situations. Of course, if they violate it, they may face serious consequences and be reprimanded by the company, Will said. "I don't want to impose, but could you provide me with a copy of this part of your employee handbook?" I asked. "Of course, just don't disclose where you got this document." The following Saturday, I went on a date and ran into Will and Lori Kleiner at a Braves game. Will handed me the flash drive, and a couple of days later, I visited George to talk about it. "Trent, I regret to inform you that even if you can prove that Noah had an affair with several women, state law prohibits you from filing a lawsuit. Georgia has abolished the legal concept of attachment alienation, which means that people cannot sue their partners for causing emotional distance or interfering with their relationship, as well as their partner's employers," George explained. Disappointed by this news, I expressed my displeasure, hoping that holding the firm accountable would affect Noah and Reagan financially. "A lot of people feel the same way," George said with a smile. He explained that lawsuits against employers are possible only in rare cases when the firm was aware of the situation but did not take any action. But even in this case, it is quite difficult to achieve significant compensation for damage. Damn it, I muttered back. But George assured me that we shouldn't give up hope, and said that there might still be a way to get justice. Before discussing other options, let's first deal with the issue of spousal alimony, George added. The following week, George sent a statement confirming that Reagan and Noah had received a marriage license and demanded that the payment of spousal alimony be stopped. Reagan's lawyer tried to challenge this decision, but Judge Johnson ruled in our favor, stopping the payments. When I started talking about the second question, George advised me to be patient. 6 months later, George and I finally met for lunch. He explained that he suggested that I wait a little bit so that the new spouses would find it easier to settle in. Noah may be trying his best so far, but I'm sure that over time he will return to his old habits once the honeymoon phase is over, he said. It didn't take long for Donna Hightower and her detective to find out the truth. Noah was already involved with a new subordinate. George quickly gathered the information and sent it to his lawyer friend, stressing that it was important to keep our relationship a secret. If this becomes known and Noah loses his job, Reagan may demand that spousal alimony be restored. There's no way Reagan is going to find out about this from me, George said with a grin, and I doubt very much that Noah will admit it either. Sly. George's friend, a lawyer, brought a package to Noah's office. Will reported that Noah had been kicked out by security and was unlikely to reappear. Reagan tearfully asked questions about the reasons, but no one gave an answer. Take it, you idiot, I muttered to myself. If I keep acting like this, I might end up being a gloomy old man. I sent the package anonymously, and the next evening I got a call. Melissa exclaimed into the phone, I understand that you probably don't want to hear me, but I had to tell you. Noah called me last night and informed me that he had been fired from his job due to staff cuts and was going to file for a reduction in alimony. Curious, I contacted a friend at his former place of work and found out that there had already been whispers about his dismissal. Today, I received a mysterious package that shed light on the situation and should help me maintain the current amount of spousal support when Noah files an application. Trent, I can guess who might have played a role in this, so I express my gratitude to you, Melissa said. I couldn't help but grin and said, if you had asked the right person, he would have answered, you're welcome. But as for the package, it seems like some people will never learn. Noah will most likely tell the judge a sad story, but when my lawyer presents the evidence, I hope those words will come back and haunt him. He just got married again. I wonder if he's gone back to his old habits. Melissa, let go of the past. Just be happy and enjoy your life. You deserve it. We said goodbye, maybe for good this time. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly free. I passed the test and coped with the difficulties that Reagan and Noah threw at me. Reagan was now in financial difficulties, living in an apartment rather than in a luxury house, dealing with an unfaithful husband who paid alimony and child support. Looking back on the past, I found that I no longer feel any bitterness towards them. I wanted revenge, and now I felt indifferent to them. It brought a sense of satisfaction, but it didn't last long. I soon realized that no matter what, they still have a certain power over me. I threw away the opportunity to be happy with Melissa because of the Reagan and Noah story. Despite numerous dates and intimate relationships with women, I couldn't get rid of the memories of Melissa, Reagan, and Noah. I realized that until I could think about them without feeling heavy, I would not be truly free. Then I made a decision. Plucking up the courage, I dialed Melissa's number, which I had kept since the day she received the package, and called her. Hi, Melissa. This is Trent. Can we talk? Once again, you did not hesitate to come to my rescue. I'm all ears, she replied. I saw the light tonight, and if it's not too late, I'd like to discuss it with you to see if there's an opportunity to change something. It was quiet on the line, but I felt her presence as I continued. Despite the fact that I advised you to forget about the past, I realized that I couldn't do it myself. I want to express my regret about this and ask for an opportunity to correct my mistakes. she didn't interrupt me, and I could almost feel Melissa's tacit agreement. I was relieved to find out that she wasn't seeing anyone else, and to my great surprise, she agreed to give our relationship another chance. We decided not to rush things on our second first date next weekend, but, as it turned out, everything went on as usual. She invited me to her house. We shared a bottle of wine on the couch and talked late into the night. Before I knew it, I was carrying her upstairs. We lay together in comfortable silence, both hoping for the best. In the following months, we overcame difficulties, but we found out that we have the same values on important issues. The little things that used to seem very important now didn't matter so much. As a result, I realized that I was falling in love with her more and more every moment. In the end, I had to admit to myself that my feelings went beyond simple sympathy. To my delight, Melissa felt the same way, and together we began to dream of a future together. Soon, a little over a year later, we tied the knot. Ansley, our beloved flower girl, stood next to us as Melissa and I exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other forever. Although I have crossed paths with Noah several times since then, my fears about the confrontation turned out to be groundless. During our first meeting, he made a sarcastic remark about seconds, but I quickly cut him off, saying in a whisper that only he could hear, "Noah, I'm grateful to you for snatching Reagan out of my arms. If you believe that she will be faithful to you, then you are more stupid than I imagined. Thank you for letting me be with Melissa, the sincere woman you couldn't keep safe. I definitely won in this situation." He looked like he wanted to explode with anger, but then he remembered that I could easily destroy him. Turning to his daughter, he whispered something, kissed her goodnight, and said goodbye to Melissa. A few months later, he confessed to Melissa that he was ending his marriage to Reagan, finally realizing the truth of my words. When he started to advise something, she quickly interrupted him. "It's too bad you didn't realize this sooner, Noah. Don't ever bring this up again," she said firmly. From that moment on, Noah became silent towards me, but I see remorse in his eyes whenever he sees us together, and I just smile back. Ansley, who is now 6 years old, lives with Ortiz's grandparents. I hold Melissa's hand tightly and feel her squeezing mine while we wait for the doctor's instructions. With one last effort, Melissa leaned back and I kissed her gently on the forehead while the doctor and nurse worked hard. The midwife looked at us and announced, "Mr. and Mrs. Rowe, congratulations! You have a beautiful baby boy." At that moment, I realized that all the problems and difficulties were worth it. I wouldn't change a single thing.